Hey everybody, it's Kelly here from Kelly My Nutrition. I'm going live. It's been a while since I've done this, so we'll see how this goes. But for those of you who may not have seen me before or aren't familiar with me, my name is Kelly Agnew. I'm a certified nutritional practitioner, also known as a holistic nutritionist, and I support women around the world with stress management, burnout, adrenal fatigue, and hormone balancing. And today I'm just coming on here to talk about going with the flow and how this phrase never really was anything big in my life for a very long time. If you know me, I was that sort of type A personality, super organized, always needed to have things go perfectly. And in the last probably 5 years or so, have learned the importance of really adopting this mantra of going with the flow and just letting things happen. And so what I want to talk about today is that I want to talk about a couple of other things and how it relates to this and why it's so important. But for example, think about it when you commit to yourself a healthy habit. You want to improve your health by eating better, or you want to improve your health by perhaps exercising. So you've made this commitment to yourself and you've probably created goals around it. And so, maybe it's you want to have one home cooked meal per day, or you want to have at least 5 servings of vegetables per day. Maybe you want to exercise 3 times a week, right? So building this healthy habit is a commitment to yourself. But of course, you go through a few weeks of that, everything's great, and then life happens. So something's going to happen to you, and it's bound to come and knock you totally off your socks as you're trying to build this healthy habit. And then you feel terrible, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I can't even do this. I've fallen off the bandwagon. And falling off the wagon is such a limiting phrase because we tend to use it as if, we're on this wagon of health, or we're on this wagon of building this habit with all these other people that are trying to do the same thing. But really, we're not on a wagon. You're trying to build healthy, sustainable lifestyle habits. This is your life. So I try to tell people, and I try to tell myself, not to use the phrasing falling off the wagon, because you're not falling off of anything. Life happens. Things come and they will, derail your plans, or you're trying to build this habit and they'll stop this habit from being successfully built, or maybe they're just going to put a pause on some of these things that you want to build in your life. You're not falling off a wagon. And when I hear people saying that, it makes me think, are they setting themselves up or expecting that they're on this wagon for a short-term period of time and then they can get back to real life? Because in a lot of these cases, building healthy habits is about sustaining long-term lifestyle changes. It's not about something very, very short-term. And so that's one of the reasons I'm not a fan of that wording and that phrasing, because a lot of us get caught up in saying that, and we're all very guilty of it. I know I am myself. I've said this many times, I've fallen off the wagon of trying to reduce the amount of sugar I'm eating because of, Christmas or holiday or whatever. But it's not a wagon, it's life. Life happens. And so adopting lifestyle changes always means going with the flow, because whatever change we're trying to make, whether it's exercising more, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's, doing more yoga, perhaps it's eating better, whatever it is, life is going to get in the way. Stress is going to happen. You're going to end up perhaps, having a week of vacation where you can't do those habits, and then coming home, you find it hard to get back into them. Like, that's just life. That just happens. It's natural. And so I want to talk about 2 big reasons why you should not punish yourself if you're not able to be perfect with your new lifestyle or health habits. And number 1 is nobody is perfect. Nobody. Not even that person on the other side of the screen, me, a nutritionist. I'm not perfect. And this actually became so abundantly clear to me when I was at Natural Food Pantry doing one of my talks recently. Someone from the audience asked, so, you're a nutritionist, so that probably means that you're absolutely perfect and, you don't eat any junk food, or you don't eat any of this, you don't do any of that. And how is somebody, though, like me supposed to make some of these changes? And I was so surprised at her comment, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense, because people perceive me as a nutritionist as being, I practice what I preach 100% of the time. Or, because I know the dangers of sugar, I must not eat any sugar. And you will come across some nutritionists or some people in life that are like that, and they're very, very particularly rigid in their way of practicing or their way of acting in their life. But for me, I'm far from perfect. I told this lady too, as much as you'd like to, look at me and think that way, that is not the case. I'm just like you. I grew up in a house where there was sugar everywhere. I grew up in a place where it was very easy to get quick energy from junk food. And so that's what I defaulted to. And it took me until I was in my early 20s to make changes. So I've got 20 years of, some binge eating, definitely addiction to sugar. I have 20 years of these habits that I've built for myself, these unhealthy habits that I'm trying to reverse now. And it's challenging because you grow up in a certain way and then trying to change those things as you get older gets much harder. Not to say it's not possible. And I'm constantly on the journey of improving myself and avoiding as many of these unhealthy things as possible, but really coming back to this idea that nobody is perfect. And if you set yourself up to expect perfection, you're going to stress yourself out. So that's the second point, is that nobody is perfect. And if you expect perfection from yourself, you're going to add stress to yourself because perfection is impossible. So you're always going to hold yourself to this standard that is not going to be achievable. And that's just a fact, right? So perfectionist mindset is really a scarcity mindset. You don't feel enough as you are, and you feel that you need to be perfect to be worthy of anything. And then you hold yourself to that rigid expectation. If you can't meet that, you feel bad about yourself. You feel, why can't I do this? Everyone else seems to be able to do this. And then you get in that negative mindset, which perhaps might even stop you from trying to adopt the habit in the first place, because then you get frustrated that you can't do it. And so you stop. And that's not what we want. We want to build healthy lifestyle habits that are going to be sustainable long term. We don't want to set ourselves up to think that we need to be perfect in order to be able to adopt these things, because like I said, perfection is impossible. And so for me, I used to be that person, and always a perfectionist about this kind of stuff. And I always thought it was kind of 100% or zero, but there's a middle ground. And when life comes into the picture, you're not in this perfect bubble all the time. Sometimes some of these habits have to fall. And so all this is coming back to that go with the flow mindset, and why that phrase has become such an important mantra for me. Because in the past few months, I've noticed that there have been a few of the healthy habits that I built last year. I was really working on them, and they've fallen by the wayside. And I've had to come to terms with the fact that, okay, I'm not meditating every morning. I had done that. I was doing that. I loved doing that, but I'm not anymore. And that's because this reason, this reason, this reason. And understanding that it's okay to go through phases and to go through changes. And it's not necessarily saying that, it's not saying that you have to be perfect every single day all the time. It's about trying to add things into your life and creating these lifestyle habits as much as you possibly can. But then when life happens, don't punish yourself for not being able to do it. And that's something that I'm still learning, even as a practitioner. And I know that it's something that a lot of people struggle with, because a lot of us want to be healthier, eat healthier, have less stress in our lives. And when we hold ourselves to rigid expectations, we set ourselves up for what we would consider failure. But if you're using that go with the flow mantra, it's not failure, it's just life, right? So anyway, that's all I really wanted to come in and say today, because I've been thinking about these things for the past couple of weeks, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to come on here and be vulnerable and let you guys know that even me as a practitioner, I'm not perfect. And I don't want anyone to expect that I am. And it's okay for you. And I want to give you permission to know that it's fine. It's okay if you can't be perfect either, because no one is. And we need to be okay with that. So I hope you have an awesome rest of your Sunday. Super early in the morning. I got to go and do a bunch of groceries and stuff, fun stuff for a Sunday. But anyway, have an awesome day and let me know. I'd love to hear, did this resonate with you? Is this something that you struggle with as well? Because you're definitely not alone. So have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.